Robert Plank Show, episode 251. Launch copywriting. Be personable, develop a buzz around your product, and succeed with Sarah Grear. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the program. Our guest today is Sarah Grear, and just to make sure that everyone following along can spell the name, that's SarahGrear. So Sarah Grear has personally written copy for over 200 businesses, from startups to seven figures. And as a copy conversion expert, a speaker, and a published author, Sarah's focus is on helping entrepreneurs turn online lookers into buyers with persuasive writing. So Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert.
I'm glad that you're on. So you're a copywriter, and so there's lots of copywriters out there. So what makes you unique? What makes you stand out in that sort of area?
Oh, well, thanks for asking. So, one thing I know about myself that I've learned makes me unique, and in the beginning I thought it was just normal, is I work with my clients online primarily, and I always show up on camera, and they're surprised by that because a lot of copywriters don't like to show their face. They kind of like to be behind their computer, and so that's one thing that I'm realizing really makes me stand out as a copywriter. And it's funny because of that, I have been invited to speak at so many events this last year just because every time I show up for a meeting, I'm like makeup on, ready to go in front of the camera. And I find that people instantly recognize me as a leader and have given me many stages to speak on because of it. So that's one way I stand out as a copywriter for sure. And it wasn't a strategy. That's the best part.
Awesome. It's just a happy accident, and you look back and notice that that was a good thing to do.
Yeah, totally. And it's been amazing being able to teach more in front of audiences and doing podcasts like this. I've been really grateful for all of the opportunities that have come just from like being myself and doing what I do naturally.
Awesome. Well, that's the dream, isn't it? It's like all these people out there. Maybe they're doing things that they don't want to do, or just trying to suck it up, or just trying to make the money. But it sounds like you haven't figured out. You're doing that thing you love, and you're good at it, and people want it. So you're hitting all the right buttons there.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful thing. And, also as a copywriter, I like doing live edits with my clients, and I don't know that all copywriters do that. So I actually get inside of Google Docs with them, and I will do live tweaks with the client because I used to do some journalism, and I realized that when you can actually see the reactions on people's face when their eyes light up and stuff like that, I'm actually taking note of a lot more than just what we're writing together. I'm kind of watching their reaction too to see how I can weave it in.
Awesome. Getting those nonverbal cues. So I mean, it sounds like you're making use of a lot of this sort of more recent technology, or maybe technology that has been around but is kind of more perfected now, like the video conferencing and the live, like Google Doc collaboration and all that stuff. And so, just to get everyone caught up, make sure that we're all on the same page, can you sort of explain like what it is you do and like what copywriting is? Because I don't know if you've dealt with this, but like some people know it as like persuasion, or we say copywriting and they think it means like to draw a C letter with a circle around it. So can you kind of, I know you've heard of that. So like, so can you sort of tell us about like what is copywriting to you, and sort of what your process is?
Yeah, totally. So I'm definitely not a trademark lawyer, which is where the other type of copywriting comes in. I am copywriting in terms of marketing. So it's really just the words on your website. And specifically, I help with launch copywriting. So it's a little bit more than just the website. I also do email writing for clients. So I help them set up their funnel. And basically, every time the client is interacting with their audience and they're writing emails, or they're putting up an opt-in page to get people to subscribe to their list, or they're doing a launch of their course and they're running some kind of challenge, all of those things, even down to the Facebook ads, I help them create that copy so that when someone interacts with their brand, they get the most conversions that they can out of it so that they can amplify their sales.
Awesome. So not just the web page, but all the things that go with it, the email, opt-in form, the ads, the whole package.
Yes.
So when you come across a new client, I mean, what starting point are they usually at? Do they have a website already made, or do they have nothing and they need you to do all of it? Or what's usually the starting point when you come across people?
So usually someone finds me because they are looking to do a launch. I do help with websites as well, and I've started writing. I started out writing copy for websites from scratch. So somebody didn't have an online presence yet. They wanted their homepage, their about page, their services page, or their sales page created for them, and I would write it for them. And then I kind of evolved more and more into doing launch copywriting because it seems like everybody and their mom wants to have an online course now. Which is great for me. So I started really creating that copy and helping them with that piece of it because outside of your website, usually people will create like a sales page that's only up during the launch. It's a closed and open door offer. So I'm helping them create that copy so that they can present it to their audience during their promotion.
And are you having to sort of catch them up with this whole launch idea, or do they already know they want to do a launch and then they just say you're the person for the job?
Yeah, I tend to work with people in the list building and authority stage in their business, so they're quite familiar with launches. They may have done them before and they just want to multiply their results in terms of sales. So when they come to me, they're definitely looking to up level in their business. They probably have a list, like some of my clients have hundreds of thousands of people on their list already. So that's kind of what I mean when I say they're in the list building and authority stage. And now some of them have never sold a product to their audience. They just built their audience and then they're like, "Oh, and I should try to sell something to them now," which is always really fun because with them there is a little bit of an education around, okay, so this is how you create promotions and this is the strategies behind why you send an email on this day and then that day. So I do walk them through it if they need it. And then a lot of them, they've already been through that whole rodeo and they know exactly what they need. And I just go in and create the copy for them. Sometimes they have all their launch emails already. They're just looking to revamp it or give it a makeover because it's old copy that they've used again and again and they want to refresh it.
Awesome. And so, sort of along those lines, what's your process from going from like those raw materials where, like, like you said, like maybe they already have a web page, or maybe they have an audience and they have like existing content on Facebook, or they have ideas. How do you make sense of like all that stuff and then turn it into this kind of launch campaign?
That's a great question. It's interesting because I bill myself as a copywriter, but I definitely help with more pieces than just that. And so, although I'm writing the copy, I actually start by creating a funnel map for them. I use a tool called Mind Map inside of Google Docs. It's an add-on that you can add as an extension. And then I go in and lay out what emails are going to be taking place, and then if it's leading to a webinar page or a challenge, like I will create this whole mind map for them showing them where the direction of all the emails are leading to, and then what's the outcome after somebody registers on the webinar page. There's a confirmation thank you page. So I start there. I start with a map so that we're all on the same page. Hopefully somebody on their team is already doing stuff like that for them, but that can be wishful thinking sometimes. Which is why I've learned to just do it myself, because I want everybody to be really clear going in on the launch, like what am I creating and how is this all connected? And then once we've agreed on the launch map, then I go in and I create Google Docs for each copy component. So there might be a doc for the sales page, and then there will be a doc for the pre-cart emails and a doc for the post-cart emails and a doc for the Facebook ads. So that's kind of how I get everything going. And then I definitely have intake forms that I ask them to fill out before our first call. I get as much information as I can from them because I feel like that really speeds things along. And the more clarity we can all have going into the project, we can hit the ground running that much faster. So I've enjoyed being able to add all of that value, and it's not necessarily under the copywriter umbrella, but I don't mind doing it. And I have people on my team who help me with even the project management piece because there are so many moving parts in a launch, and I just want to keep my sanity. So I
Right.
started doing the project management piece, and not even really, what I found is people really respect and admire you for bringing extra value without necessarily saying it and just surprising them. So because of that, I've had some really amazing clients who are making serious changes in the world, and I get to be a part of it, and they appreciate me because I bring so much more to the table than I officially say that I'm bringing.
Awesome, but that's the whole point, right? To kind of find that niche, and and within that sort of sub niche, you have a big demand, but then also you kind of make yourself unique with all that. So it sounds like that's all working out for you. And I like that thought process you have there, where you say, okay, here's the map of the whole entire thing. Here's like the email, the webinar page, the sales page, the all the emails. So here's the whole big picture, and then a separate Google document for each of those, so people can kind of see that come together. And then you have the intake forms to kind of get the good stuff out of them. And so, sort of on the topic of those intake forms, like whenever I like hire a copywriter, sometimes they'll send me like this like 10-page long sort of questionnaire thing, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to fill all this out. When I finally do, I feel like I've like written the sales page almost for them. And so, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, and how do you sort of solve that problem with your process?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So I don't ask for more than 2 pages of information for one.
Good to hear.
And it's really only targeted questions, and I actually send them a welcome video along with the intake form. And I say, hey, Robert, look, this is the information I'm asking for. Feel free to skip any of these questions if they don't apply. If you've created this with somebody else and you just want to send me what you have from them, that's fine too. So I really lay the playing field out so that it's like, just give me what you think is important. I don't feel like I need everything here, but I'm going to just put the questions so that they're asked in the advance of us getting on the call. So I really try to make it easy as possible for them. And so I found that little welcome video makes all the difference in like answering all those questions before they start asking them in their head, like, why am I giving her all this? I try to to preempt that with a welcome video. So, and that's helped.
Cool, and it sounds like that's, I mean, that's a part of just your whole like way of doing business. Like we said, that you show up on camera for these meetings, not because you have to, just because it adds a little something extra. You make the welcome video so that way they'll be probably more feeling more at ease, like they're dealing with a real person who actually cares, and probably be
Totally.
more motivated to fill out that questionnaire, even though it's only 2 pages. Some people are like, ah, I can't even write like two words, right? And so you have all that, and then how do the meetings and all that stuff take place? Like, do you guys like decide on a schedule? Like, how do you sort of balance that whole, well, things like you need to meet with them and do these things, but you also need to kind of have your own free time, have your own life. So how do you sort of balance that with all the like scheduling and meeting with them and things like that?
Oh my goodness, this is a great question. I am really grateful that from the beginning I was very clear about how I wanted to work with people. And so each stage of the project we complete in 5 business days or less. So if we had a sales page, for example, I would say, okay, you give me the intake forms. Our project start date will be on Monday and we'll be done by Friday, as an example. And the reason I do that is because within those 3 meetings and the 2 revisions, I can complete everything. And I would rather work on one stage at a time with one person at a time. I call them my writing vacations. Like I just focus on one client at a time, maybe two if something overlaps. And so I've created this system for being really clear on when I'm going to start and finish things. And that's how I've managed my time. And I have specific production days where I will only meet with clients on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then in terms of writing, I've had a little spillover lately, but I try to keep my writing on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday as well. And then I have a team backing me up on the other days that I'm not writing. So that's worked really well for me in terms of like client management and expectations around everything. When I send the intake forms, I send the timeline and I make it really clear so that, because the whole like reason behind this was, like you said, you want your time to yourself and you want to be clear about expectations, because then it gives you freedom to do things that you want to or need to do during the week. So I have like obligations within my family that certain days I just can't be in front of the computer. So that's been really amazing for me to be able to get my clients on board from the beginning and tell them like this is how the project is going to look, and they've been more than happy to work with me. And I'm flexible if somebody needs like some outlying thing, but for the most part everyone just is excited to fall in line with the schedule I give them, because they're like, oh cool, I know the outcomes and I can forget about this part of the project after that day.
Awesome. That's a good way of thinking about it because yeah, like as we keep saying, like with the launch, like there's all these moving parts, and so it's kind of scary to think that on one day it'll all kind of fit together all at once. But if one block at a time is sort of knocked out, that's awesome. And so, how did you come across that? Like, how did you get to the point where you had those production days? Was that just like you ahead of time decided that, or did you try it out a different way, and that was sort of a learning process? Like, how did you end up with that kind of structure?
Yeah, it was a learning process in the beginning. I definitely would just work as things came in, and I realized that it wasn't serving me best and it wasn't serving my clients best. So I started to realize that I needed to focus my schedule. And I think I probably learned it from like one of my business coaches. And I think along the way, I heard people like Pat Flynn talking about how he has production days or he only does podcast interviews on Tuesdays or whatever. And so just hearing it again and again from a lot of other people that they're like, you've really got to batch your time, that sunk in for me. And then I made it work for my own business. And I knew that it would be really appealing to people if I could write. And honestly, I used to write 7 pages to a website, like the home, about, services, contact, whatever else they needed in 5 business days. I knew how appealing that was to people. So I had an incentive to use it as another value add to my copywriting package. So that was, I think, it just made a lot of sense to me in my head at the time. And so I just kept going with it from there and tweaked it as I went.
Awesome, makes a lot of sense, and it also makes sense that because you're a copywriter, that your offer that you yourself provide would be fun and fast paced. So awesome stuff. And then when you say there's these different stages of the like all these things that need to be set up for the launch, and you say each one is done in 5 business days or less. Do you ever come across someone who says like, well, the launch date is in 2 weeks, or the launch date is this, and it's like not quite compatible? Does that ever happen?
Oh, yeah, of course, definitely. So I have found a couple different ways to look at that. I will strategically say yes to somebody sometimes if it's a rush job and I really can make the space for it. And when I say strategically say yes, I'll think about, are they going to be a repeat client for me? And are they the type of client that I really want to create for? If the answer is yes to both of those, then I will make space for the project. And I mean, launching within 2 weeks, I'd be surprised if they could actually pull it off. Usually somebody will say that to you and then they'll push their launch date out if you say yes and do the project with them. There ends up being some wiggle room in there for them. But if it's like 4 weeks in advance, that, even depending on the size of the launch, even that can be a squeeze. And I have to ask myself, is this somebody who has been through multiple launches and is going to continue to need a copywriter? Or is it just this one-off thing? They don't know how to plan a launch. They've never done a launch before. That's when I would recommend them to other people. And just, I check in with my circle of copywriters. I'm like, hey guys, this person needs a rush job. If you have space for it, you can grab it. And sometimes it's a good fit for somebody else. Like sometimes your no is a great yes for someone else. So I always keep that in mind when I pass along the project. Sometimes people really need work and they're looking for it. So I'm happy to pass it along.
Awesome. That's a pretty good thought process there, especially because like if it's not a good fit, why force it to fit? And so we're talking about all these cool things and all these like, ways of like scheduling stuff and getting things in place. And I'm really curious if you could kind of walk us through maybe like an example or a case study with you and a client where they came to you and you fleshed out the job and you knocked it out. Can you kind of like maybe walk us through some sort of case study like that, and maybe even tell us about like the timeline of things that you did for them?
I would love to do that. That is so fun that you're asking me to do this because this is what I love doing.
Awesome.
Okay, so I just finished a launch with a client, and she contacted me at the top of December. And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to work with this woman. She's doing amazing things for creatives. And so she basically helps them create and run their jewelry business. And so I had heard of her already. So there was a little bit of like it was a warm connection. Like I already, and I knew some mutual people in her circle. So I was like, yes, I totally want to do this project. However, she had 4 weeks before she was getting started because the beginning of January was the opening to the challenge that she was creating. So it was interesting because what I'm seeing more and more is people will do they'll take their three-part video, which is the product launch formula. Like they're using the three-part video, but now they're framing it as a challenge. So it's interesting to see that, and I think it's a really smart thing to do. Like you've already got your three-part video series, just frame it as a challenge now and drip it out over 10 days. So we ended up doing a 10-day challenge for her. And so she had to shoot the videos. She was reshooting the videos. So she actually asked me to do the video scripts along with all the opt-in pages and the emails and everything else. And I said, I don't want to do the videos too. I can help you with all the live pages that are going to go up to get people to opt in and all the emails they're going to get in the funnel. But I think you should get another copywriter for the videos. And because it was just that 4 week window was not enough. I'm one person and sometimes my team works with me, but anyways, so she found somebody else to do it, and it was an amazing experience to be able to work side by side with another copywriter, because if for some reason she needed something really fast, we kind of jumped in for each other at times. And so that was really nice to have someone else on the team who was up to speed on writing really good copy and could support the client too. So that worked out beautifully. And then we got to the beginning of January. She opened the three-part video series. She released it over 7 days, and then the last 3 days she offered a live masterclass, which was basically a webinar. And it was really fun to see over the course of the video challenge and also the webinar, she got 8,000 new opt-ins, and I was so proud.
Crazy.
It was beautiful. And so I got to help with the Facebook ads too. So I was really involved in all the different parts. And then on the tail end of that, she got the 8,000 new opt-ins. And I think she told me 250 sales at the end of everything. So after the webinar ended, she gave a scholarship away on the webinar, which really helped with attendance. She got 50% attendance, which is amazing for a webinar. And then after the webinar, she opened the cart that same day. And the cart was open, I want to say like 10 days, maybe, somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact dates. And at the end of that, she got around 250 sales. Last time I checked in, we were going to do a down sell, and that will probably bring in, she said, another 100 sales. So maybe 350 sales after everything. It was an amazing experience.
Awesome. I mean, it sounds like it. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, like you mentioned a couple of times this whole idea of like a launch challenge. So could you explain to us what that is?
Yeah, it's really popular right now. If you hang out like on Facebook or Instagram, you'll see people say, "Oh, you can do this challenge with me." So what it is it's usually between 5 to 10 business day or 5 to 10 days, and I don't recommend doing more than 10 days. Where basically they offer free training, and the people who sign up for it can learn how to do something if it's for their business or whatever. And I found that it really helps with engagement. And part of the reason why it's so good is when you do a challenge, you actually help people get results during that 5 or 10 days. And then they can kind of see what the change is for themselves. They can see themselves transforming. So there might be like they'll do a five day juicing challenge where you can learn how to make green juice or something like that. For hers, it was a jewelry brand makeover boot camp, so they could learn how to market their jewelry better. And I think they're pretty amazing. And part of the reason why they work so well is if you pair it with a free Facebook group, then people are like posting in there, and it's another way for you to interact with them besides just in their inbox. Because email more and more is like, it's not very dependable. Things don't always get delivered or whatever. But if you also have them in a Facebook group and they're all posting and interacting together, they see the power of the community. It makes a big difference.
Awesome. So you have that challenge, that 5 to 10 day period where you have the free training, and it's not just any old free training, but help them to get results, and then also have them join a free Facebook group. That way, it's not just the old, outdated email stuff. They can interact. They can see who else is in there. There's all that traffic. So awesome stuff. And so as we're sort of winding down today, I want to make sure that people know where to find you and know about your website. So before we get to that, have you been seeing like a common universal mistake people have been making, whether it's from like a launch sequence in general, or if clients come to you, if they've all like made some sort of mistake before coming across you? Are you just seeing like the same mistake in your space being made over and over again?
Yeah, it's interesting. I see mistakes being made, and I think it's part of the reason why people do hire a copywriter. They don't feel like they have to know all the latest training in marketing, and I love that stuff. So, one thing that I see people do is they assume they know what their customer wants without getting the exact language that their customer would use. So, it's basically like you could do a survey to learn what people actually want. You could take your ideal client out for coffee and see what kind of language they use around their struggles. And sometimes I see people trying to do launches without figuring that out first and without figuring out like the right, because as a copywriter, part of what I do, again, above and beyond what some other copywriters might be doing themselves, is I'll look at the surveys, I'll ask for the surveys. Like my clients who are pretty advanced will always have those on hand, and I want to know, like, why aren't people buying their product, or why did they buy the product, what was the problem that they were trying to solve. All these things you can ask in a survey and find out, and use that language so that when you run a Facebook ad or put up an opt-in page, people actually see the words that they've been saying in their head, that internal dialogue. They see it on the page and they're like, yes, this is what I was looking for.
Awesome, and that's one of those things that like I probably forget it like every 2 years, and then I remember it again, and I forget it again. That whole like actually asking people, what it is they want and what their problems are, and not only getting that problem, but knowing like what keywords or what key phrases, even though it might be some kind of weird, silly thing. I've come across that over and over with my own products, or like I'll have like some kind of plugin that I'm trying to sell, and I'm trying to like make a good webinar or a good demo video for it, and they'll say like, well, I use it for this weird, goofy purpose, and I'm like, I never would have thought of that in a million years. The way they happen to use it, or the problem they're having, or these other similar products that they're buying that are not quite solving their problem but close. And so I mean, yeah, even though it sounds simple to just ask people what made them buy or what not made them buy, I mean that's like a huge reminder that, like I said, like I'll remember it, I'll forget it, I'll remember it again. So really really good to know for for anyone doing a launch, or putting out a product in general. So I mean, we talked about some awesome stuff today, and I want to make sure that everyone knows all about Sarah, and where to find you and what you have to offer. So can you tell people what website or websites you want people to go to, and what they'll find there and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah, I'd love that. I actually have a free gift for your audience that I would love to share.
Awesome.
Yeah, so if they go to www.sarah, Sarah, Grear, Grear, sarahgreer.com/Robert Rules, Rules.
I like it.
Yeah, they can get a free gift. It's 8 powerful questions they can ask themselves to start to write their own copy. And it specifically focuses on their brand story. And that's one thing I see people missing from their sales pages and their email copy, is not telling their brand story enough. So I wanted to give your audience something where they could kickstart that. And I hear from people all the time when they do these questions, it either reignites their passion for their business, or if they're just getting started, they feel like, oh, okay, cool, I have a good starting point now of how to tell my story online. So.
Awesome, good stuff. And so, am I understanding this right? If when they go to sarahgreer.com/Robert Rules and they get these 8 questions, so they can, if they just want to like do this copywriting thing on their own, they can answer the questions and sort of get excited. But then also, this is compatible where if they then get excited and say, "Whoa! If Sarah gave me this, imagine what else her done for you services are." They can take the answer to these questions and hit the ground running with you and your launch copywriting services.
Totally. Yes, it's definitely a part of what I send to my paying clients. So they usually pay thousands of dollars to get access to this, but I'm giving it to you guys for free.
Awesome, super generous. And then if people want to just, cut to the finish line and talk to you and figure out, and tell you what their project is and figure out if you guys are a good fit for this launch copywriting thing, how can people contact you for the purposes of launch copywriting services?
Oh, thank you, Robert. So they can go to my website, sarahgrear.com, and there's a tab on there that says copywriting services that will take them straight to the page, and there's a way to contact me there.
Awesome, good stuff. Well, thanks so much, Sarah, for stopping by the show and sort of explaining to us your process and how you take this big honking problem, which is the a launch campaign and videos and sales letters and all this, and breaking it down into these manageable pieces and having a lot of fun along the way, and telling us about some cutting edge stuff like that launch challenge, and telling us about those mistakes. So everyone should go right now to sarahgrear.com/Robert Rules to get the freebie, and then sarahgrear.com to see everything else that Sarah is about, and click on copywriting services if you want those services. So thanks so much, Sarah, for stopping by the show today.
You're so welcome, Robert. Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here.
Have you had a chance to rate and review the show yet? If not, go right now to robertplank.com/iTunes, click the View in iTunes button, and click the Ratings tab. We would really appreciate a 5-star rating or whatever you think is fair, plus a quick 1-sentence review to tell us how we're doing. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.